Fishtrap, and he has enjoyed his time with us dearly. We welcome to the podium Andy Miranda.
Hello everyone. Today I will be reading to you my random autobiography. It's too long, but it will work.
I got through 2 pages just fine.
I remember the rough, warm street under my bare feet. It was scary to come out at night, all the demons and humanoids lurking about. I was careful to step around the shattered glass on the sidewalk and retrieve the rake from the community garden. I remember when they had torn down the sign that told us it was for the community. We used to jump the fence to get in and steal watermelons and tomatoes just for something to do. But they had recently rebuilt the fence. No kids would be stealing from their garden anytime soon. Everything was changing. It was time to leave. I would be raking during the day, but the heat is unbearable during the day. So that's when we sleep during the day. But now it's like 2 o'clock and I'm up raking, still barefoot. I push a grocery cart out full of our stuff to the dumpster. It was time to throw away the past and get on with the future. I remember waking up on the day of our departure, and the song, "Make it the last time, make it the last time, make it the last time, I'm going please," by Janis Joplin playing over and over in my mind. They don't call this place the land of entrapment for nothing. I remember eating the remains of the chicken and mashed potatoes that my friend Ben, his grandmother, had so considerately bought for us since our dishes weren't in the house anymore. It wasn't as good cold, it was delicious hot, and we gave the remains of it to Tomcat, a local stray that my mom had become so fond of. She would miss him so much. I remember my sisters and brother acting as if it were Christmas. I remember how excited they were. I remember my childhood best friend, Dre, was leaving on the same day as us. The new bastard landlords had kicked him out. I remember standing in the yard and saying, "Guess this is it." I remember him saying, "Yeah, I guess this is it. Just 2 fucking dumbasses." I remember laughing. I remember him saying to my brother, "Stay in school. Don't be stupid." I remember saying, "See ya," and him saying, "Later," for the last time. I remember playing with him throughout the hot days and the cool nights as a child. Carefree evenings where we would go on adventures based off of video games. Those days are over now. Gone. Only a memory to be revisited in my mind. I remember it being incredibly stuffy in the Suburban, and my poor cats and their cat carriers yowling in fear. I remember the clouds collecting overhead. Everyone's favorite weather, rain. I remember my mom making a phone call to the Imperial Inn. It turned out to be a sleazebag hotel, but we stayed anyways. I remember the bright iridescent lights at night on the streets where all the hotels are. I remember how hard my mom looked for a decent hotel, one that wasn't like the Imperial Inn. I remember spending long, boring days in the summer heat at the storage unit helping my mom go through our stuff. She was trying so hard, so incredibly hard, to try and fit in all our stuff into the U-Haul trailer, a thing we would learn to hate. I remember the 2 chicks at the Motel 6 by the highway. They flirted with a 13-year-old named Andy Miranda, whose father had died when he was young. They felt remorse for him and gave him a hug, and had a lad who had some awesome hair, a kid with a million brothers and sisters, a kid who said they were beautiful instead of hot like they expected. I remember the day we left. We met Ben, his grandma, and his older brother at the laundromat that evening. We were the ones doing laundry. I remember his grandmother giving us money for whatever the fuck we wanted to buy at the gas station. It was so sad that I would never see this woman again. I used to tag along with her and Ben to Wendy's just about every other Friday. I remember sitting in her truck as she drove home one day. She called me her adopted grandson. I felt like it was true. I remember parting is such a sweet sorrow. I remember sleeping in Albuquerque one last time. After that meeting in the laundromat, I remember driving down the highway. I remember falling asleep. I remember waking up outside of Albuquerque in the Whispering Sands rest area thingamabob. I remember tagging Andy Loves Deja on his sun-bleached, brittle, splintery picnic table with a Sharpie marker. Many months later, I would have this conversation with her via text message. Andy, I really miss you, Deja. I think about you every day. Andy, but not in a weird way. I miss you, Deja. I miss you too, Andy, and I do want you to know that back then I did have feelings for you, but they are gone now. Even my feelings for David are gone. Andy. Oh, Andy. Well, it's still comforting to know you had feelings for me before. Andy. Really, it's my fault though. Deja. No, it's not, I promise. Andy. Yes, it is. Deja. No, it's not. Andy. I'm always so awkward and nervous around people I like. I just make things weird. Deja. You make things funny and peaceful like a hippie without weed. Question mark. Andy. Well, call me or text me if you ever want me to hook you up. You know what I mean. Parenthesis. Wink. End parenthesis. Deja. I see you just made me laugh my ass off. That's why it's not there. Question mark. You're amazing, Andy. To know you are amazing, Andy. That is how I genuinely feel. You're fucking amazing, Andy. And you're majestic. Deja. You just made my heart melt. That was the day that the girl I was never dating broke up with me. I remember the day she kissed me after I had helped her cheat on a science test. I don't count it as my first kiss because I don't think it meant much. It was just another way for her to persuade me to help her cheat on her tests. So technically, I've never been kissed. I think I loved her. Maybe. I don't know what love is. I remember feeling so alone that day. I remember homelessness. I remember how cold it was. I remember sleeping in the crowded back seat of the Suburban, the blankets piled up on top of me, keeping most of me warm, but never my feet. My feet were always cold. I remember the feelings of security, like nothing could harm us as long as we were in our car. I remember how hard it was to perform a simple task like eating or bathing. I remember truck stops, the warm, well-lit places where shelter and a place to eat could be found. We could shower, do laundry, sleep in the parking lot, and eat, all in the same place. I remember rest areas. I hated rest areas. It was it's cold water in the spigots and bathroom sinks, having to eat cold food in bitter cold wind. I hated it. I hated truck stops too. Having to do the dishes in public, the way people were looking at us without even having to see their faces. I remember grocery stores. I hated those as well. Having to eat at a table set up in Fred Meyer's or Safeway, my mom washing my sisters in a family bathroom of Walmart. I remember being a kleptomaniac. I remember stealing from every place we went. I remember friendly people who were willing to help us. I remember mean people who wanted to destroy us. I remember feeling closer to my family than I ever had. I remember hotels, little moments of heaven that only lasted for a fragment of time. I remember a longing to come home. I remember not having a home. I remember when we came into La Grande. I remember our intentions to settle down, to make this place our home. I remember before that, when we decided to settle down in Eugene, and Bend, and Coos Bay, all the places we were going to call home, but found it too hostile, or crowded, or chaotic. I remember being wanted by U-Haul. We were supposed to have turned in that U-Haul trailer a while ago. We were real outlaws, real Robin Hoods, real Han Solos. It was amusing and very scary. So it was for real this time. We really were settling down. We really were going to call this place our home. I remember the truck stop in La Grande. I remember food poisoning. I remember the homeless shelter and the hotel. I remember Christmas Day at the homeless shelter. I felt like I finally had a family, a place where I belonged, a place where it was warm and people were happy we were there. I remember finally getting a food stamp card again. We didn't have to worry about food or begging anymore. I remember getting milkshakes at the Sinclair. I remember going to the subsidized housing office to get a home. I remember being happy and excited for once. I remember the cold, wet snow crunching under the boots the homeless shelter had provided for me. I remember driving up to the nice little apartment building at night and opening the door to our new home. I remember the feeling of the softish carpet under my feet and the smell of cigarettes. It reminded me of a hotel. I remember how new and clean everything looked. I loved it. I remember unpacking the U-Haul. The women who stood in the doorway 3 apartments down looked like crackheads. I can tell. There's a certain look they have to them. Their dog growled at me as I walked by. I looked it into the eyes, challenging it. I feared nothing. I remember when the U-Haul trailer was almost finished being unpacked. I remember the feeling of anxiety creeping up on me like demons. I was afraid that we would have to leave in a couple of days like we always did when we were in hotels. My mother reassured me that we were okay, that everyone who has been on the road experiences this. It turned out she was right. And we did. Everything turned out relatively fine. And we did not live happily ever after. Thank you. Come again.